very warm welcome to each and every one of you to this Art After Dark panel discussion. My name's Jonathan Mane-Wheoki. I'm the Director of Art and Collection Services at Te Papa. And the topic that we'll be looking at is, do we need another book on Monet, darling? And the substantive question, of course, is, does Monet still matter? Going on the evidence of the queues for the Monet exhibition, probably the answer is yes. But there are questions about how he rates as a painter, what his contribution to the history of modern art is, given that that's a constantly shifting landscape. How do we explain his undoubted popularity? And does popularity equate with populism as something to be sneered at? Which is just one of those uncomfortable things that sometimes happens around Monet exhibitions when the cynics among the critics sharpen their pencils. There have been many plays on the resemblance of the name Monet to the word money, for example. Roger Blackley, in his recent listener review of the exhibition, picks up the Sydney Morning Herald's comment that Monet on the walls is money in the bank. Well, we wish. All I can say is that Te Papa hopes to break even on what is an incredibly expensive undertaking, and without people paying their small admission charge, without the very generous sponsorship, without government indemnification, we just wouldn't be able to do it. And so it's quite a complex business bringing it all together and bringing it off. What is it about the Impressionists that brings out the puns? All this week I've been answering to the name Mane-Wheoki. Some of us have fond memories of Dennis Norden on Frank Muir's BBC radio panel game show. And the highlight, a shaggy dog story developed from a well-known phrase such as, "There's many a slip twixt the cup and the lip." I remember a long-involved story that considered Manet's scandalous Déjeuner sur l'herbe, which depicts a nude woman, a partially clad woman, and two young men on a picnic in woodland, with a pond in the background presumed to contain carp, and an indeterminate area at the back for which the purposes of this story became a lover's leap. "Look," came the punchline from Dennis Muir, "there's Monet asleep twixt the carp and the leap." The story also featured an English impressionist by the name of Jack Hughes, or in French, Jacques Hughes, who did impressions such as placing a lace doily on his head and puffing out his cheeks. "Look, Queen Victoria." Our panellists this evening are in Wellington to speak at Te Papa's Monet and the Impressionist Symposium on Saturday, and that will be a day of scholarship and enlightenment. But this evening we are in the mood to reveal our lighter selves and maybe at the same time cast some new light on the painters of light, Monet and the Impressionists. And so it's a tremendous pleasure to welcome and introduce our four expert panellists this evening. Second from my left is Dr. Emilie Sitzia, lecturer in art history at the University of Canterbury, where she has been teaching 19th century European art since 2004. Her research encompasses a range of interdisciplinary topics linking literature and art in 19th century France, and she will be presenting a talk for the Friends of Te Papa tomorrow in Soundings Theatre at 12:15, and everybody is welcome to come. And there's a charge for that. At Saturday's symposium, Emilie will be speaking on Monet and the weather. And it is a particular pleasure for me to welcome a former colleague and old friend, Julie King, former senior lecturer in art history at the University of Canterbury. Julie came to New Zealand after completing postgraduate studies in 19th century French art at the University of Manchester and working for the Open University in England. She has researched and written on many aspects of New Zealand art and curated national touring shows of the work of Sidney Luff Thompson and Margaret Stoddart. Julie will be speaking on Monet and the Garden at the symposium on Saturday, and she'll also be the keynote speaker a month from now at our 16th of April Art After Dark event, when she will be talking about New Zealand artists in France, the lure of Brittany, and I promise you that is an absolutely delicious topic. It's also a great thrill to welcome Emeritus Professor Virginia Spate, I think you can work out which one she might be on the panel. An eminent art historian who has published widely on modern European art. Her magnificent book, Monet and the Colour of Time, first published in 1992, and still very much in print. We have copies for sale of this remarkable work of scholarship in Te Papa's store, says he, getting in a commercial very quickly, has been acclaimed as a classic. And I quote, an impeccably researched, convincing, and beautifully illustrated overview of a much more complex artist than previously thought. And in fact, it's that book that has helped to change the minds of many of us about Monet as something more than a painter of pretty landscape pictures. I guess this was the book that when she was undertaking her research, her mother wondered, does the world need another book on Monet, darling? And I have taken a liberty in rewording that question for tonight's discussion. Virginia is currently working on a book on Cézanne and will be sharing some of her insights with us at the symposium on Saturday. But I wonder, Virginia, does the world need another book on Cézanne? No. Darling. Finally, Terence Maloon, co-curator of the exhibition and curatorial colleague from our partner institution, the Art Gallery of New South Wales, with which we have really enjoyed working in bringing this exhibition to Sydney and to Wellington. Roger Blackley, in his listener review of the exhibition, Kia ora Roger, picks up the forum's title, Do We Need Another Book on Monet, darling, in commending the current exhibition's catalogue, and responds, the answer must be a resounding yes. And Roger singles out Terence Maloon for his contribution of a fascinating account of Monet's posterity and his translations of early reviews and memoirs. These aspects alone ensure that that catalogue will have a shelf life way beyond the current exhibition. But I must say I haven't quite forgiven Terence for blurting out on the day of the exhibition opening in Sydney, I am so over Monet. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our four panellists.